Hello, dear friends. We are happy to welcome you to the next international discussion dedicated to the conference Global Crisis, Time for the Truth. This conference is a truly historical event for the entire humanity. On 4th of December, people from more than 180 countries came together with one goal, to voice the truth. The truth about the global cataclysms, the reasons why they are taking place today, which are, the galactic influence, the cyclicity that we are now in, about the disasters in our ecology, about the consumer society and such the face of it as human trafficking, slavery, violence, and the really, really sad destiny of climate refugees. But this event was also so important because people know the way out, which is the creative society, where not the profit, not the money playing the main role, but where the human life put first, where really human life has the most important value. So that's why we are happy to welcome you today to discuss this event and to talk to our esteemed guests about their opinion, feedback on this event, and we will discuss the next topic today, which are dedicated to the climate refugees. Welcome, dear friends.
Thank you so much, Antonia. And definitely when people come in together, we can do so much more. And today's roundtable makes me really happy because we have very special people from worldwide, really different countries, but one topic, unity of people. And that is the only way to overcome any issues we have as a civilization. So today with us, we have Liene Greyfane, film and TV director. We have Evgeniy Afineevsky, film director and producer, who's Oscar nominated, been before and is running this year. And Jonathan Riva from Netherlands, strategic development manager. We have Chandra Cleveland with us, who's a private investigator and specialist in crimes against humanity, especially women and girls. She has over 34 years of experience in law enforcement and advocacy for women's rights. And of course, last but not least, from Germany, we have Imam of the oldest mosque in Germany, Mr. Amir Aziz. Welcome. And today's roundtable, we would like to start from very, I would say, heavy video to watch, but very important video to watch. It's about the face of refugees, and it's about humanity. It's about human values. How? Because we as a civilization should be counted by the mark. How do we treat the most unprotected human beings on Earth? And those are climate refugees. Please, let's watch the video.
Why is there such inhuman treatment of people? I was thinking about it and decided to figure it out.
You will never spend a month without being attacked with a xenophobic attack, because they say as a foreigners we are stealing their work. I've lost that hope of being in the great society. I don't know, I've lost that hope because seeing the way that people are being killed, seeing the way that people are being shot in my eyes.
A child can be sold many times. I remember one day I came across the story of a girl who was, she was Turkish. She had been sold 17 times, and she had been trafficked from one country to another 17 times, and she had experienced only rape.
I also sat in many auctions as a customer, as an undercover when I was doing the undercover. We were sitting for the auctions, 9-year-old girl, 10-year-old girl, as per the demands. So the trade called the first time sex. Whenever the auctions will happen, new girls arrive in the trade, so they put the auctions. So who will bid the last demand, the money, that person only will use that became full night for his choice.
The business that is made of spare parts, the human spare parts. How many children have been transferred from one place to another and then being operated on for some rich guys in different parts of the world to get a kidney or get something else from their bodies against their will.
Black market, traffickers, mafia is part of this economy that is ruling the world. So what else I can say? That I only see that another possibility is to spend money instead of constructing walls like we are doing in Europe.
In our society, human life has no value. How is it possible that instead of help, people encounter violence, aggression, abuse, and slavery? This is not a migration crisis, but this is a crisis of humaneness.
People, by looking at the existing legal frame, will not ever be entitled asking for protection. Because you will ask them which country you're coming from, they will say there's no country. I had a country called X, but the country now is underwater. Or I had a village and this village is being totally destroyed or disappearing.
It turns out that there are still no effective programs for the resettlement of refugees. For so many years, the United Nations has been working. For so many years, the Refugee Rights Commission has been working. So many humanitarian organizations and NGOs around the world have been working, but there are no working, established or adopted programs on how to work with these refugees. There are none. And the Refugee Commission itself admits this.
Now refugees are forced to leave their homes. They face condemnation and cruelty. They are left alone with their misfortune because of the consumerist format of society. Tomorrow's climate catastrophes could be upon us as well. Answer yourself honestly. Are you ready to face what refugees face? Are you sure you won't be in their shoes? That you and your loved ones won't have to go through what they're going through.
Thank you so much. It's quite heavy topic to watch and quite heavy for me personally to even see stories of these people, but I understand that this is so important and many people understand that any one of us can be in their shoes. And why is it so important to talk about these things? I would like to ask my first question, address it to Evgeniy, because I know how big of a part of his recent movie, Francesca, was dedicated specifically to the issues of refugees and refugees' rights.
I, first of all, thank you for having me here today. I think we are living in a current crisis situation where the world divided, where the world lost. And I think majority of the world lost their moral compass. And that's what we see. And that was one of the reasons why after two movies where I saw Revolution, where I saw crisis in Syria, where I saw the major refugee crisis in Europe, that a big part kind of related to the Syria, I wanted to bring every major aspect that's surrounding us in the world and to point to the world that, hey, we're living in a very shaky situation where we need to reevaluate every action we're doing today. Now, I, who born in former Soviet Union, who immigrated to Israel and living in the United States, I'm not refugee, but I'm migrant. So at the end of the world, we can find majority of the people who moved from one country to another. I have a lot of friends who migrated from one place to another. Pope Francis, who was the subject of my last movie, his parents moved from Italy to Argentina in the beginning of previous century. So we can find that either one family or another, or every second family, every third family, have somebody in their bloodline who moved from one place to another. in today's world, due to the catastrophic climate change, and we can't deny that the climate change is shifting. Look at the weather currently in Seattle, because I'm right now in California, where we have already second week rains, which reflects with the snow in Seattle. I think we can't deny that there is a change of the climate. We can't deny it because we can see it, we can feel it. And the climate change, obviously, with the shift of the temperatures, affected lives of the people in the Middle East. Like in my last movie, I pointed that in the Middle East, way before the Arab Revolution started, Arab Spring started, we had a drought that started to move people from their homes because they not were able to have any agriculture because of the drought. So people started to move. So if you will start to really do a global research, which usually journalists doing, and in today's world, I think in journalism selling more important topics that are disasters, but not selling the topics through the networks that are important to us, to society, to learn. So for me, as a filmmaker, it was important to emphasize these things. And I think to look at the refugees today that are coming towards our homes and asking for shelter, asking for help, not necessarily because of the climate change, but also from the wars, we need to embrace this and welcome them. Because tomorrow we can be in their place. Because tomorrow we can have flooded our cities, and then we will be seeking shelter in different places in the world. So I think that element I try to bring through my movie, through my storytelling, and emphasize to the people across the globe that, hey, refugee crisis, yes, it sounds like, yes, they're happening somewhere in the Middle East or somewhere in Latin America, very far from us, from big metropolitan cities, but it's not true. Tomorrow, we in the big metropolitan cities can be flooded, can be having disasters, and we will be seeking shelter somewhere else. So we can be on their place. So I think that's important to learn about these things, to reevaluate our actions, and try to be kind of understanding in the cases when we see people asking for help, asking for shelter.
Mr. Afineevsky, thank you very much. And thank you very much as well for your participation in the conference. You said before that, yes, it's important to talk about, to learn. And the next question is I would like to address to Ms. Cleveland. Since, at the conference Global Crisis Time for the Truth, the most pressing issues were discussed. So in addition to the drastic climate change, we have still human trafficking, slavery, child exploitation, the violence. So all these topics were discussed, but there are still questions why we should talk about it while we have so many problems in the society in such difficult times. And, there is a question, why should we bring up these topics on the global scale as it happened on the 4th of December? And why is it so important to understand for us, for everyone, why is it happening? What is really going on?
So true. Evgeniy, I can't pronounce your name, who just went before me. As you said earlier, a global crisis can happen anywhere. And what we see now is people with power who are taking over, are manipulating the people who are in need. It is something that is occurring around the world. As you see that people are being run from their homes, being taken over by the people of power and the people of economic standings that are using this time in order to take over these people who should be welcomed and given an opportunity to start over again. In human trafficking, the past 2 years with this global pandemic in which we've been going through for now the past 2 years, a lot of people are using that opportunity to take over, to sell this commodity that they see now of dollar signs. that is selling of people, selling of people's body parts, offering hope to the hopeless, which is really not hope at all. It is coming with strings attached where sex trafficking is occurring to the smallest of people who are there now. It sickens me to my stomach that I was contacted from another friend in Africa that had babies that were stolen and being sold and sex trafficked from families who were living in poverty, who cannot do anything about it. We look at other people, and that's the thing that I always say. You look at it as if it's happening somewhere else. It's all within due timing that it could be in your area. So we need to figure out a way to help immigrants, refugees who are coming to our area, seeking help and shelter, instead of using them, trafficking them, labor trafficking them, and putting them to shame when we should be helping to get them established in where we are. There are a lot of things that, I see that the numbers globally with this pandemic going on, sex trafficking and human trafficking is only increasing. And how is that so? Who could be buying or preying on the families who are in need to survive in order to tell them, we will give you this or that if you sell us your children? So we're seeing a lot of families who are really in need of life, simple things, who are having to make that decision of selling their children. Natural disasters, the refugees, the females that are in the group, these people with power and money, as everything that keeps going on and on and on, is being fed, being led by people within great financial standings. Those people have an opportunity that they're taking from vulnerable people and using it as their power. Together with us coming here globally, talking about the problem and giving situations and resources to those who are in need is truly a great step forward. But we have to start moving a little bit quicker. People are dying. People are losing everything. Global warming has taken everything. As you see, a natural disaster doesn't have a map. It can happen anywhere. So if we don't start moving towards welcoming, helping, and building and looking at climate change, we're looking for and just waiting for the disaster to happen on our side of the world.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cleveland. I absolutely agree with you that the change... Oh, please, Evgeniy.
I wanted to add something. First of all, I agree, and I wanted to comment on a couple of things. For the last couple of years, we living in a media bubble. Each country, each place in the world, living in its own bubble. We isolated from what in reality happening in the world. And conference like this helps to bring people from all over the world together. Because like it was just said that we are missing education and all power of education to open eyes of the people, to allow them to understand what's happening across the globe, what's happening in reality on the borders, what's happening, how people every day dying in crossing the seas in the Middle East. I think people really not able to see this because media keeping us in our own kind of society bubbles in each country. So there is no knowledge that the people, my neighbors, or people in the society around me can have about what's in reality happening in the world. When I was working on a Francesco movie, and it was 2019, my second year, I did screening to a lot of friends here, just a rough cut. And I remember one of the members of the Academy, person who been himself nominated for 2 Oscars, been in shock. And his words to me after seeing the movie was, wow, how many disasters are in the world and we're not aware of them. And that's the true reality. Now, we actually not need to go far. For example, when we're talking about climate change and people moving and the power that are using this as a commodity, exactly like was just mentioned, Brazil, when Bolsonaro's government decided to take over and create deforestation of the Amazonia, what they did, they took literally people who are indigenous people who were living in Amazonia forests for centuries, and they lost their homes. So what happened? We damaged the climate. We destroyed literally the lengths of the world, destroying the forest of Amazonia. And we created the refugees. So here's the sample that just came to my mind after listening to you, because that's just example how power can create damage to the climate and create the refugee crisis in a second, in just a disaster that we are facing already for like a couple of years. And then the same forest was burned, Amazonia was burned, and again, it's created more refugees. So that's just example. Now, another great thing that I just wanted to say, because as American who have American passport, there is a great quote in our American passport on page 45. It says, "It is immigrants who brought to this land the skills of their hands and the brains to make of it a beacon of opportunity and hope for all men." That's American passport. And it's too bad, I guess the Zoom, it's too bad that people forgetting this, that it's immigrants who created the best in these lands, because they are valuable people to the society. And like Pope Francis said, it is important to embrace them. It is important to put them into the society and allow this integration, because they can really dedicate themselves to develop these societies to the better. Just a couple of comments.
Well, thank you very much, dear friends. You're absolutely right. And we will also come back to the topic of the role of media, since we have here two dedicated guests from the film industry, and we are so happy to have you here with us. And, you raised the question before, also dedicated to the climate refugees. So are we ready actually to be in their shoes? And it also was raised in the film. So I would like to ask Jonathan, so the question related to the climate refugees. So today, for some reason, it's assumed that the issue of migration as a whole is related more territorially to the Near East or maybe countries in Africa. But the climate catastrophes now are taking place in each country of the world. And also it affects countries which are maybe more economically developed, but still also these countries are not prepared. So we witnessed what happened just a week after the conference, Global Crisis, Time for the Truth, how hardly the USA was affected by this series of tornadoes. It just was unprecedented catastrophes. It's really horrible. And each day, catastrophes are happening across the globe. So, but still there is this, understanding that migration is more related to other countries. So the question arises how we as society as a whole are actually prepared to these catastrophes. And, when not thousands, but millions and billions will have to migrate if we would do nothing. So what do you think?
Yes, well, thank you for the question. I think it's a great question to ask ourselves, because it's always important to open up a little bit our mind on what can be our future. And when we look outside of the window, we might not see every of those catastrophes there to feel that we are concerned, we are touched. And maybe related to this kind of media bubble, we are not also looking at this on TV or in the media. We are kind of hidden from there. So I think it's very important that everybody is opening up their mind on what is really happening. I think when we see that a country like the US with a tornado, for example, or another country like in Europe, because I'm close to that country in the Netherlands, but Germany has been touched not that long ago with a flood that surprised everybody, where even the rescue couldn't even get to the people like stuck on the roof of their house because the water was all over the place. That's almost something that nobody would have expect or imagine that can happen in those countries. So I think the preparedness of a country, either it's developed or not, is as much as the people know what's going on. And at the moment, I think there is too many people who actually don't know, as it has been said already, what is the magnitude of the situation. Another key aspect of this situation is the fact that it's not a linear situation. Everything is increasing. We have seen so many facts from the conference that shown that actually, especially in the last years or decades, we can see more and more catastrophe, more and more earthquake, more and more floods, more and more tornado. All of this is increasing. So even if we think that we are safe, even if we have this kind of feeling that I'm living in a country that is safe, it doesn't tell you that next year, with the magnitude of the catastrophe that is just increasing, that you're still going to be safe. I'm living in the Netherlands. It has been quite heavily impacted by floods. Back in 1953, there was a great flood. Basically, a dike from the north of the country just broke, and the entire North Sea just flooded almost the entire country. 2,500 people died within a night. That was more than 50 years ago, but it was still a developed country at that time. So it really showed that nobody is really sure that where they live, nothing's going to happen to them. So I think it's important that everybody once again understand that, and it's not bringing fear to people. It's more like opening up their mind that they need to be ready, they need to be prepared to whatever can come, and also make sure that because some of the countries are maybe not as prepared, some people might come from those countries and to be able to help them. But it's also part of this whole situation and how to handle the situation, that we should not just think about how prepare ourselves, but how to help others. So I think that's really a matter of knowledge that is important for people to feel that they don't necessarily know everything, and they should be curious about knowing the truth about what's really happening. And that's the best way to start to prepare yourself the best.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Definitely, it is very important to know the information, just to know the truthful information. And what we saw in the comments, like, tricky comments during the conference, like some people were still asking this question. You are just talking things, but not doing anything. And the answer in my head, I was like, how can we change something if we don't know, if we don't educate ourselves about what is going on in the world? As Evgeniy said, even people who live in an educated environment, they are being shocked when they actually find out what is going on in the world. And then when we start learning about it, we see how much our society is unprepared. Even on the legal level, there are not enough laws and regulations for the catastrophic events that are occurring more and more often. In this case, when we finally do this request, it's important things to also find the examples of the good behavior, of the right behavior, how people actually behave. We often see that, unlike in the Hollywood movies, when something occurs in Louisiana or tornado in Czech Republic, people act different. They come and help each other. They do not act chaotic like we see in the movies. And the great example, I would actually like to ask next question to Mr. Amir Aziz about the culture in Islam, because we know that the whole history of Islam started from the migration, where the very first Muslims had to migrate to a different country, to Abyssinia, which was a Christian country. And Christian country hosted them and gave them shelter. So what is actually the religious, cultural, and the background? What does Islam teach us regarding the interaction of people in different religious and cultural backgrounds? Mr. Emmy, please.
Thank you very much for providing me the opportunity to talk on this very important issue. As I was listening to all the speakers and after watching this movie, the question arises that all the time there is hue and cry about this immigrants and migration. So I just read a very beautiful quote from somewhere. Somebody asked that what is the solution to this immigrants, and they said that stop creating them. Once you stop creating immigrants, the problem will stop. So the main point is that when we are going to create immigrants, then obviously this matter, it will continue. The second is, if we see, there's a Mahatma Gandhi. He said that there is enough for everyone's needs in this world, but there is not enough for everyone's greed in this world. So that's also a big problem as we are talking about the human trafficking, human trafficking, all this. This all depends on, it's all the sources, the greed and inequality in the society. I just give you one example that in the beginning of Islam, the Prophet, when he started preaching, his all followers were forced to leave the country. So that's the point, is that these immigrants, they were created. If they were not forced to leave, then obviously they were staying in their own country, they were living, they were having their own good livelihood there, but they were forced. So therefore they have to migrate to Abyssinia, which is now called Ethiopia, and they stayed under the Christian kingdom and stayed in a very safe environment. So they started their life there in the safe environment. So it is a very, humanly, it is very important that we always want a safe environment where we can improve ourselves, where we can live with absolute peace and harmony. Now, the other important point is that there are two main points which we keep in our mind. First is the narrow-mindedness of our thinking and perspective. For example, if we see that when Iraq was attacked, or when it was the Syria war started, if Afghanistan war started, so a lot of, if we go on and on, in many other countries there was war. The countries who were going to wage the war, they never thought that what will happen after the outcome will be, obviously the people will leave the country, they will run for their life. It is a human nature, instinct, that you will always run for your life. So where they'll go? Obviously they will go to the different countries, the neighboring countries, they will cross the borders, and therefore they will, and just to save their life, they will even not care about whether they are going through the sea or they are crossing the mountains, they will do it. So if they would have thought, and there would have been no war, there would have been no refugee crisis. So this crisis, it sprang out of this war, what was in Afghanistan and all over the world, and the refugees, then they started running toward the safe countries. So that's out. Now comes about the human trafficking, and here comes the matter of morality, especially when it is, we know that the sex workers, they are being created. In Islam, it gives a very golden rule that in Islam, it is absolutely forbidden to have illicit relationship with anybody. And like in Islam, it is said that without having a marriage contract, without having with your wife, you even cannot touch a woman. And therefore, here comes the morality. Because unfortunately, the world is much educated, it is literate, but it has not been morally upgraded. They have never been given that morals where they should know their the rights of the other people. So if in case of, especially in case of children, like they are being migrated from one place to another for the human trafficking and for the purpose we know. So here comes the morality, that when we create this understanding to the people, to individuals, to the governments, obviously, that the reformation starts with an individual, and then it goes on to the whole society. So if we start reforming the individuals on this level, on the moral level issue, that having this kind of slavery which is, for example, we see it is absolutely forbidden. Having illegal relationship is forbidden, and it is a moral crime against other human beings. So, and the other important point, which also is important, is corruption in the society. If we see the people, those who migrate from one country to another, why they are migrating? For example, from Africa, or from other countries, from Southeast Asia, the people, they always migrate. Why? Because their governments, they are corrupt, they are plundering everything, and therefore there is nothing for them. So what they do, obviously, they have to leave the country, they have to migrate themselves, and obviously they will involve in this sex trafficking also. And so I mean that this overall we have to see. And then environment, as we say that our ecological system environment is that when we are not going to take care of this environment, so the people will obviously then will try to go to the safe environment where it is much more cleaner, much more less polluted as compared to the other country. So this is actually a very, very wide range of subject which we are talking. It has many, we can say that different aspects. But overall, we have to educate people. We have to give them the moral education, and then the important is that if we stop creating immigrants, then we can solve the situation. And in this situation, what I say that, for example, in Syria, what happened in Afghanistan, then it becomes the religious duty of a Muslim that they should come out and they should help these people to integrate them in the society. So when there are many thousands of refugees here in Germany, and I know that the government of German government has taken a great step to integrate them so that they can learn language, they can become a very beneficial and citizen of this country. So then obviously it will take time, and it needs a lot of resources also. But if we educate people morally, and the most important, that when there is equality of an equal equality in the society, obviously this problem and this crisis will go lesser and lesser. So immigrant will stop when we will provide them everything there where they are, so that they don't even think to go to other places. And all the second, when we are morally making them strong, obviously they will then not be involved in illegal and illicit relationship.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amiraziz. It's truly deep understanding of each subject, and it's a great honor to have you here with us, because you're very well acknowledged of all the different subjects and know the situation from both sides living in Germany. And so many subjects that we touched upon today, and I feel like it's endless conversation that can be about problems, and we wouldn't still cover all the problems. But something we started from, like, is there a vision of a solution? Is there a vision? Is there a goal of the society that we actually aspire to? And is there anyone who's actually talking about this goal? And next question I would like to ask Liene, of course, last but not least of our speakers. How much important it is to solve the very root of the problem of our society, which is consumeristic approach to the life itself, where people use each other for profit and see each other not as human beings, not value each other's life, but see each other's as an opportunity to make profit and money, which is the very core of this inhumane, catastrophic situation that we have right now. How much important it is to actually have the vision of the solution. And what is the solution in your opinion? Please, Liene.
Yes, good evening, everyone. To be honest, we have a really vast topics discussing today that are not very easy to solve because there are no such a pill that could solve all these issues in one day. But I was just noting some things because there were really interesting topics discussed. And what I want to say, first of all, I would like to compliment the speech of Mr. Amir Aziz, because I think he said it really correctly about the migration. I'm also a migrant. I'm from Latvia, but I live in Russia. I migrated with my family to Russia and currently stay there. And I think that people in general are afraid of migrants due to one reason, because they don't know who these people are. They have a different perspectives, different understandings of life, different mentalities, and the same things as religions, different churches, different prayers, and so on. Why do they pray one time a day or 5 times a day? People are not educated. People who are not educated, they don't understand these nations. If talking about Islam, for example, we need to talk to people. We need to educate them. We need to give them the information about different nations, different traditions. We need to inform people about the diversity of all the people. I forgot the Russian word, but of the diversity of different religions, and what are the differences and what are the similarities, and why, for example, people who preach Islam, they do this or that, and why we should not be afraid of it. And right now, like in our world, even in the movies, if you see people who preach Islam, they will be either murderers or like bad personalities, negative personalities, negative characters in the movies. And this is wrong because of the movies, because of the mass media, we treat other people and we think of other people negatively. And me as a producer, I think and I believe that we need to change this retrospective. We need to change the point of view of how do we see the other nations? Why do we see migrants from the negative side? Why do we blame them, and why do we experience these negative emotions when we see them? Why don't we look at them as people who really suffer and who have to migrate into either Germany or any other country? And why don't we ask ourselves, why did they have to migrate? And I think that we need to educate people as Europeans, as well as the migrants too, educate them the traditions, some things that some laws or some traditions from different countries. And we need to educate both sides, the side who's accepting those migrants, as well as those people who are migrating, so that there would be some boundaries set, and so that, for example, women could wear, the ripped jeans, and nobody would look at them in negative way, or things like that, so that there would be no bad treatment of people. And of course, this education of both sides is extremely important. And me as a human, as a person, I can basically what I can do is I can start from myself, and for example, in my movies, I can take some characters from the movies and show them from the good side, and so that basically once you watch this movie, you would feel this light, this good things. And when I was creating one of the movies, the song came into my mind, and I created a song, See the Light in My Eyes, and I saw different nations, different families, but the point of life is to be loved and to love ourselves, to love your family, your kids, but in different countries. So basically, a person, a human being, his goal is to live in this world while creating, by loving, by creating something positive, to interact with other people on the positive wave, to learn from each other. And what I, as a human being, can promise and do from my side is I will be basically recording and shooting a video clip for this song that I've created, that basically is uniting for all of us. And another topic that I try to dive deep into is the human traffic, of course, and the violence against children as well. And I also wrote a script about one girl who was raped by not somebody else, but by her father. And so basically it's about the violence inside a family, and this will be a movie that will be created, because this is basically the topic that the mass media tries to avoid. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to speak up about that children are being raped not only by other people, but also by their relatives, and as well as other people too. In this topic is trying to be, they try to hide it. Nobody wants to talk about it. And I think that if we as people in society will talk about these dirty, unpleasant topics, but will speak up, will show the examples, so that people would open their eyes and understand and see really carefully, at least on the streets, see where, for example, a little child or a woman who is kind of like closed up in herself, so that we could see those signs when people need help, so that we could help at least one person. And it's not just, giving a ride to a woman who is walking home at night, right, without a flashlight, so that, protect her like in a fast way, just to pick up that woman and give her a ride home. You can do that. These are like the real actions that you can do. So that she could not, get into a bad situation. And I really believe that we need to create platforms where well, I'm pretty sure that there are some platforms and that there are some signs for that, some signals that women can give. I'm pretty sure Chandra can tell us more about that. When, for example, a woman, if she's in a bad situation but she cannot speak, she can show a sign. And when women are being sold and trafficked, they understand that they cannot speak up. They can create this sign language for those victims, so that we as people who are not in danger can understand that a person is in trouble and help them.
All these topics are super heavy, but what's important, and especially for the media personalities, to show the vision of the society and of human behavior that should be popularized, right? The vision of the society we would actually want to live in. And this question I would like to ask to Evgeniy again, because all the conflicts, as we talked prior to today's stream, can we solve the problems only concentrating on the problems, or do we have to spend some of our attention actually on having the vision of the solution? And what would be the solution in this case?
I think, first of all, we need to work on the prevention. I think prevention is the important thing. And how we can prevent things? Education. I think it is important to raise these topics in front of the younger generation that are growing today. I'm not talking about only in the schools, also in colleges and universities. If we will put something in front of the younger generation, that refugees and migrants, it's the same people who've been in the bloodline of themselves. It means some of the kids who today not living in the United States and born in the United States, maybe their parents or grandparents been migrants or refugees. To raise this thing, so people not will feel some kind of I should say that people will not feel that the people who coming towards knocking on their doors are just strangers. You mentioned before Christ from Syria movie, before we started this table. And while we're having a conversation, I was thinking, but one of the reasons I did Christ from Syria was in 2015, finishing my Maidan movie, I heard so much negativity that media was putting in our brains about refugees, that they are coming, taking over cities. But in reality, nobody was trying to explain and bring the real picture, that people trying to survive, people trying to save their kids. And it's true, when we having fear, when you living in a big metropolitan city and you have fear of something that you don't know, you will be fearing these people. If you don't know the real culture of Islam or any other religion, you will have a fear, because what movies portraying is only negative. So we, of course, will have a fear. So the biggest challenge and the biggest solution is education of younger generation. Like in my recent comment that I just said maybe 20 minutes ago, one of the elements that you already doing, it's the conference. You're trying to bring the topics, you're trying to point to the topics, and you're also discussing possibilities of solutions. You're trying to open wide eyes of the people on the things that are happening, but also discuss possibilities to resolve this. Now, we're doing right now curriculum for the schools. We're doing lectures in the colleges using the audiovisual material that I created with all my movies. So I think that's one element. Another thing, I think it can be used in the art. We as the filmmakers, we can bring it definitely through our art and find some kind of opportunities for the people to open their hearts and minds. When we bringing actually harsh scenes from the Middle East, we making people to reevaluate values and open their hearts and minds. So I think all this possible to implement in our lives and start slowly these changes. Now, same with the climate change. I think Greta brought a lot of important elements, engaging younger generation into the conversation and into the actions. But if we will continue this momentum with the younger generation, we may find also the solutions for the climate change. If a child coming out of the school, home, telling to his parents, Mom, let's separate trash, let's use less water, I think if each and every second family will start to do these things, we may have less and less impact on the climate change. And again, it's a small things that in a bigger scale can bring the changes.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you very much to you, Mr. Afineev, and to Ms. Greyfane for your great examples of how the film industry and cinema can create a better worldview of us as people. And the conference, Global Crisis, Time for the Truth, united people from 180 countries in one dialogue, without middlemen, without any, any third platforms, but directly with each other to talk about the challenges that stand for us as humanity. And this is so important not to fight with the consequences of a consumer society, but to build the fundament of creative society where we celebrate our diversity, we celebrate the human life of each person, because it's so precious, and we have only one life that we have to preserve as our own. Thank you very much.
I have another small thing. You said a beautiful word, unity between all of us. And I just said, we need to teach kids. When kids from different religious groups, from different social environments, playing together, they're all playing, they're kids. None of them trying to be better or bigger, or nobody of them feeling difference, because they're kids, until their parents say, no, he is bad, or he is different religion. So I think the most important is education. Education through art, education through such conferences, through round tables, through all kind of platforms that we can deliver to the younger generation, because they are the future and it's all in their hands. Like I just said, kids, when they're all together playing, we can have kids from Muslim family, from Jewish family, and they will be playing together until their parents can start to put difference between them. We can take refugee kids from Middle East, and we can take kids from Latin America and mix together, and nobody will feel difference until the grown-ups will, through different manipulation, will put it in their heads. So I think education through any round table, through any school environment, through churches, mosques, education that we all brothers, that we all even, is important element. And of course, education about environment and all other aspects that surrounding us.
I couldn't agree more with you that the kids are actually showing the example of how our society could behave if we wouldn't be pushed at some age, something that pushed on our society with grown-ups who lost that humanness that kids have in their purity. And I know that Jonathan is actually a father too, so is you, Evgeny. And it's actually a very interesting question. Human life has to have a goal, right? Each one of us, we make ourselves goals and we go to the goals. But as a society, do we have a goal? And if we should have a goal, would you like your children to raise in the society with certain goals? And what would those goals be, Jonathan, please?
Yeah, that's very true. I think you cannot go anywhere if you cannot aim at something. So we need to all aim at the same thing if we want to go in the same direction and kind of resolving the situation. I think I really like the reference with kids, because indeed I have, and I can see the way they behave. There is no predetermined ideas in their head about the way to do things. They just do it with their hearts, and that's what we should bring a little bit more into our society. I think overall, the creative society that we've been talking as a solution into the conference is the solution that we can actually see as implementable to the situation. I just wanted to maybe actually go through the foundation of this creative society, because talking about foundation is really referred to the baseline of what everybody should be aiming at. When we talk about a foundation, we talk about a foundation of a house. We should be behaving like a family, living in the same house, having the same foundation. And those are the 8 foundations of the creative society. Human life, human freedom, human safety, transparency and openness in information at all, the creative ideology, development of personality, definitely about the kids, justice and equality, and self-governing society. I think the society that I want is a society that is adaptable to the situation in terms of solving it all together. This adaptability is absolutely not something we have. Everybody is behaving their own way. It's like if you had a sandbox with kids, and every kid would be playing in each corner of the sandbox and just throwing sand at each other. That's not what is happening when you go into a park. You see kids playing together, and that's the way we should actually behave. We need to bring together all of the intellect, all to the science, all of the people that can actually do something and do something all together. So aiming at this society, it's crucial into the situation in which we are. But it's also up to us to make that shift. We should not shift any responsibility to anybody else. We should not think that somebody else is responsible for the migrant crisis or for the environmental disaster. We are all into the same boat, and we should all behave the same way. I think that conference was a good small illustration of what the society could be, and I think it's a great example of what people can look forward and look for.
Thank you very much. And indeed, the conditions of creative society, these are the conditions that we so urgently need today as humanity in order to provide the conditions for science, for technical engineers, for our, experts, in order to find out the solution for the climate catastrophes that are already taking place, because we cannot change the climate. So we saw on the conference what are the real reasons for the climate change, about these global processes, about this cyclicity. So it's so important to create these conditions where the science will work for this one goal, to preserve our future, to preserve the human life. And I would like to come back to our speaker, Mr. Aziz. You are our active participants of the project Creative Society. We are very grateful to have received your blessing from the whole Muslim community for the project. And we had also the blessings from His Holiness Pope Franciscus, and it was really a big gesture, this big step towards uniting all of people. And in previous conferences, you expressed your view on the foundations of Creative Society. You also said that it's completely referred to the legacy of Prophet Muhammad and to the understandings in Islam of how the society should work. So we would like to ask you, so how important it is today, considering the global catastrophes and the urgent need to change this format of consumerism in our society. So how it is important to remember the value of human life, and how is it important to implement these foundations that Jonathan said before into praxis and really worldwide, so that we really fundamentally change this vector of our society.
Yep. Thank you very much. So, as one of the very respected speaker, he also pointed out that the most important thing is that we have to create awareness in the society, to educate them more. And obviously, the society and the whole human civilization, it always goes through the process of evolution, and that evolution, and that is important to know that what is the goal. In the Holy Quran, God has pointed out that this whole humanity is creation of one God. Not only just human being, but this whole universe is creation of God. So it says that Inna khalaqnakum min nafsin wahida. We have created you from a single soul. So when we think each other that we are all part of the same family, we are all human, as a human being level we think, then obviously we will be having much considerate to each other, and we will understand each other's problems, and we will then try to solve each other's problems. Prophet Muhammad has given one example, that just take the example of the human. And he said that you just take the example of your body, that in the body, if there is a headache in your, if you have a headache, then the whole body, it is restless. And so he said that the whole universe, if we take that, if there will be a headache in any part of the world, and we think that all human beings, they are all they're all our brothers, they're all our sisters, we consider them a part of our family, then our whole body should be restless. So when we see the problems anywhere in the world, then irrespective of their social background, irrespective of their caste, color, creed, their religion, we should take it as an unhuman level, that now this our fellow being, our human being, they are in problem, and we have to go and help them out. And in Islamic tradition is also, I just give you one example. When Prophet and his followers they migrated from Mecca to Medina, then he gave a solution. He said that everybody who was there in Medina, he said that now you are both brothers to each other, so that you can help each other and make the people. So he actually wanted that people should integrate into this new society, and they become a much more beneficial citizen, beneficial member of the society. So according to the religion of Islam, if we take one point, and that point is that our Lord is Lord of the world. It's not just Lord of any Muslim, Christians, or any of the other religion, that we are all creation of one God. And let us all think the problems of each other. We should try to solve problems of each other. We should try to be considerate about each other. And the most important point, it is ignorance. God says that God wants you to take out of darkness into the light, from that darkness of ignorance. As it is also pointed out that when there is ignorance, when there is illiteracy, obviously people will have no idea what is going on around them. So we have to, when we provide them education, and it should be on all level. I just give you one example, that when many refugees come to the mosque and they ask me, the young people, what should we do when we are here in Germany? I always tell them, look, the first thing you have to do, you have to respect the law of this country, because now you are living here. Secondly, you have to learn the language of this country. Thirdly, you have to respect the culture of this country. Fourthly, that you have to become a very beneficial member of this society where you are coming. So in this way, like it is kind of education which you can provide them to on all level. And if it is provided especially on the school, colleges level, obviously it will have much more impact. And as far as the environment is concerned, obviously this is a very important issue, and environment can be protected only when from the very basic unit we start educating children, educating our the children, that how to protect the environment. So once they learn that, because if we I always give the example to the people that, look, this environment is just like my house. So if you burn the environment, you burn your own house. If you are burning the trees, you are burning your house actually. If you are destroying the nature, you are destroying actually your own home. So if we start educating people on this level, that the environment and everything, it is as important as our the food for our body. Then obviously but it will take time. It is the world always go through the evolutionary process, but our the function is that what we, through this conference or through other media, what we can give awareness to the people. We should always raise the voice. We should always talk about the thing, so that at least it should go to the ear. And once it goes to the ear, so the time will come that they start thinking about it, and then the change will obviously occur. It may be very slow process, but obviously in the end it will be very successful.
Definitely it has to be successful. Like, I feel like right now our society has no other way to go other than being successful, because otherwise, if it continues as it is, we're going to the consumeristic dead end of our civilization. The conference showed how much we destroyed the ecology of our planet. And our planet is like a patient in oncology clinic on the very last little stage. If we don't do something right now to unite all people with a cause, to unite scientific potential of our civilization, actually pick the topics which are the most crucial, important topics to solve, and put not the profit, but human life on the first place, it would change everything. And I would like to ask the next question to Chandra Cleveland, as to a person who actually advocated for human rights for the whole life and people's interest. How do you think, Chandra, people's life and the whole situation globally would change when the foundations of the creative society are actually put into practice, and we're not just on the words, but in practice put the human life first in the center of our world?
Well, first of all, I think it is definitely needed of awareness, and the awareness of the education to everyone is going to look different. That's first and foremost. What is happening here in the United States, what may be happening in Russia, may not be the same. So you have to educate and make aware of what is going on. You know, I've heard earlier about educating the children. That is my number one component. I go around from elementary school to middle school to high school to colleges. If you look at all of my background, you would see me at all three of those entities, because what is going on with human trafficking, it looks different in every area of development of young people. After I go through that situation of educating people from around the world, as I've taught law enforcement in Pakistan and India of how to look for human trafficking or sex trafficking victims and how to handle them. It is a way that you can handle people in order for them to identify that they are victims. That is one crucial part that everybody is missing. A lot of people do not know that there are victims. So the education and awareness of each person that is going through a crisis of human trafficking or sex trafficking, you have to tell them what it looks like, because some of them have been dealing with this within their families and countries for a long time, and it's all that they know. So you have to identify it so that they can identify it. You telling them what is going on within their area is not the same. You have to bring something that has happened in their area to their attention as to this is what happened in this instance. I am always glad to talk about things and to teach and to educate. I have a degree in education as well, but I need to make sure that every time that I educate a group, I get an ambassador from each group. I have young ambassadors as young as 7. I have ambassadors that are 10. I have ambassadors that are 12. I have 16 and so on, all the way through the college age. And those children with me on each month, every year in the month of January, on January the 11th, I have each one of them to come forth and tell what this human trafficking look like, what this sex trafficking look like. I know that it was brought to the idea earlier today that there's so many different things going on. We're talking about the problem. I'm all for solutions. I talk about solutions in every rescue that I make, and I personally go out and do these rescues. And when I do these rescues, I capture it in the moment. You know why? Because people don't remember what they look like when they went through something. So you have to be able to show them that. And I think it's very instrumental that, you know, we are talking about this, but I was so glad, even more happier to say, but what is the solution? The solution is to bring it to them, to identify it so they can identify what has been going on behind their family doors for years. And I know that people say it starts within the family. Someone made an instance that, if kids are playing on the playground together, they don't know anything. They don't know that this is a Black person you're playing with. This is a Jewish person you're playing with. You're not supposed to be mingling with Islam. They do not know that because they are children and they have not been tampered by the information that are in our societies. So with educating the young people, it is truly indeed, the road to solving all of these issues. Because if you look at the things that are happening with global warming, we have young girls in middle school who are talking about global warming, ways that they can stop it on a regular. That is being a part of the solution. We have young girls who are, at the middle school who got a prestigious award for her comments and how to change global warming. Education, awareness, and putting to use the people and the young people who know about it in the forefront so that other young people can know where to go and how to get involved. It is truly the road to solving the issues that we have of global warming and human trafficking.
Thank you so much, Chandra. And I would like to actually round up our conversation actually with the solution part, and actually to ask each one of you to present your vision of the society in a couple of words, because we of course running out of time, but just in very short couple of words, what's your vision of the society in which you would actually love to live in and raise kids? And I would like to start with Liene.
Вы знаете, действительно, эта тема мне очень близка.
Yes, this topic is very close to my heart. And the first time I talked to my friends about such a society, I had such an idea to create some kind of a calendar for 7 days, and every day, for example, we as a whole society can do something good every day. For example, on Monday, you help some kind of woman, right? Like old woman. You can start with little steps so that we could become kinder, we could become more positive as a society, so that we could respect different nationalities, different ages, different groups of people, and every day, so that we could do something for another person, maybe a stranger who we don't know. So this is such a society where we're all the same, we're all equal, and where we live for the sake of love to each other and support of each other. I can create a video clip.
It's so important. People who are actively, investigating in the film industry, in mass media, to raise these topics. And thank you very much for your work. I would like to thank you, all our guests, for being active in the project Creative Society, for your contribution to spreading the information that we raised at the conference Global Crisis, Time for the Truth. It is really crucial to spread this information to each person on Earth, so that instead of talking about the problems, we already build the Creative Society, which we are also making now, informing people that Creative Society is now on the first step of information, where people discussing the foundations of Creative Society. We also need to inform each other in order to go to the next step. And this conference united people from 180 countries. And the more people will learn about the project Creative Society, about what is happening in our society today and what the solution is, the more quickly we will find out what to do. So thank you very much for your contribution.
Any last words, or maybe something anyone would like to add? Anything? Just in 2 sentences? Okay. Thank you so much, dear guests, for being with us today. Thank you so much, our dear viewers, and we're looking forward to seeing you at our next roundtable.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Emmy Aziz, would you like to say something?
Thank you very much.
Yes, and let's watch as the last video about the creative society, about the way out. Thank you.
Evgeniy, would you like to add something?
No, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity, but the most important, thank you for what you guys doing. Good luck. And like it was said already a million times, the education is the power, and what we are lacking these days, it's to bring not only the disasters in front of the eyes of the people, but also opportunities that we have a chance to fix these things. And I think the healthy discussion that you're having during every round table is something that people need, and the opportunity to take it from these conversations into their lives. So good luck, and thank you for making these things happening for the people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for actually bringing your own efforts the best possible way to actually build a better world for ourselves and for our kids. Thank you.
You asked before a question, what is goals? You asked Jonathan about goals. I think when we looking at the kids, and you mentioned that I have newborn and he have a little one. So I think when we have any kids and we're thinking about opportunity for them to still be in this home, like Mama Aziz said, we are living in one home. We are one big family, multinational, multiracial, we experiencing different religious things, living under one God. Some people call it just different names because of different religious beliefs. But at the end of the day, there is one God. So we're living in one big home as one big family. And if this big family becoming fighters, fighting with each other, destroying walls of the home, tomorrow we will find ourselves in the streets without a roof and without the family. So I think the most important, you trying to unite people through these healthy conversations, and you trying to bring this big family again and again together. And that's what this world needs, to be together, to respect each other, to be more human, loving, caring, understanding. And that's what education gives us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. And this is indeed, as you described, that today our common home is burning, and we need to survive. We need to preserve the life. We also need everything possible to care of our children or the next generations. And the best gift for them and for us is to build a creative society, the society that we all dream of, where exactly the human life of each person put in the first priority. So that's why thank you very much to your guests for your contribution. Thank you very much for spreading the information that we discussed at the global conference, Global Crisis, Time for the Truth. And the more quickly everyone will learn what is going on in our planet and what is the solution, the more quickly we will live in this world that we call today creative society. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Humanity, various races, nationalities, religions, but we are all sailing in the same boat in this ocean of life. And the course of all-absorbing consumerism, which our common ship has taken today, is leading us to precipice. Just a little longer, and we will irreversibly fall into the abyss of economic, social, and climate catastrophes. Perhaps someone doesn't want to see and admit obvious facts, yet being afraid to turn around and see the reality. In the endless rush, in the ordinary everyday routine, in the race for success and survival in this world of consumerism. But every day, more and more people stop and ask themselves these questions. Where is this world coming to? What does the future hold for me and my children? How can I make sure that the world will be a safe, happy, and prosperous place? After all, no matter how successful you are, if the whole world is falling apart, there is no way you can avoid a bitter fate. We can change the course of our ship, which is speeding into the abyss, and instead of the abyss of consumption, steer it in the direction of the creative society. But we can do this only together. We need to unite our collective human potential, become a united civilization, and row in one direction. Uniting in a common goal, we need to direct our attention, our efforts, our knowledge, and our skills to charting a new course. And how quickly we can do this depends on the choice of each person. Our salvation is only in our unity. Only by working together can we build a truly decent world. A world that will have a future for us and our children. And that is the creative society. We still have a chance. So let's take it.